Poetry is when an emotion has found its thought and the thought has found words. Robert Frost. The following books are all told in verse and showcase the power of poetry and of writing. The first book I'm going to be talking about is Shout by Lori Halse Anderson. This is a memoir told in verse. The author recounts her family's history, her family's history with trauma especially. Her father suffered with PTSD. He fought in World War II and he carried that with him through the rest of his life. The author relives her rape at the age of 13 and how that trauma destroyed her sense of self and her will to live, basically. But then the poems move through the creation of her new sense of self and her new identity. One of my favorite quotes from the book is, "Too many grown-ups tell kids to follow their dreams, like that's going to get them somewhere. Aunt Lori says follow your nightmares instead, because when you figure out what's eating you alive, you can slay it." The author talks about how becoming a foreign exchange student to Denmark for over a year changed her life. It introduced her to a new vocabulary and a love of language that she carried with her to this day. She begins writing with great determination. She says, "The stories, the words, the phrases coming out of the mist persisted, even when I wanted to pack it in, give it up, and get out. My existence insisted on listening to the voice in my head, distantly cheering my ambition." I love that quote. Eventually, she writes the book Speak, and she's stunned by its success. And then the memoir addresses the shared experience of trauma and discusses the censorship of a lot of things having to deal with sexual assault and rape. She says, "We're all born to fight, but few are ever trained. Instead, they tell us, be nice." The last part of this memoir has Anderson reflecting on her family and how sharing stories makes everyone stronger and connected. She says, "The opposite of innocence is not sin, dearly beloved. The opposite of innocence is strength." And my other favorite quote from this book is, "Pain won't be contained by bars or marks. Your scars deserve attention too." This is an incredible book. It is heart-wrenching. It is moving. It is hopeful. It is all those things all at once. I highly recommend it to almost anyone, teens or adults. Anyone really. It's a really fantastic book. The next book I'm going to be talking about is The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. This book is a wonderful fiction book told in verse about a girl named Xiomara. Xiomara is tall and has a little too much body, according to her mother. Her mother isn't the only one who talks about her body. Everyone else does too. This is a quote from the book. "The boys who call me a whale in middle school now ask me to send them pictures of myself in a thong. The other girls call me conceited, hoe, thought, fast." And she also talks about the objectification of her body. She says, "It happens when I'm at bodegas. It happens when I'm at school. It happens when I'm on the train. It happens when I'm standing on the platform. It happens when I'm sitting on the stoop. It happens when I'm turning the corner. It happens when I forget to be on guard. It happens all the time." And because of this, the objectification of her body constantly and the things everyone says about her, Xiomara has developed a pretty thick skin. She walks around with her knuckles at the ready, always ready for a fight. But her mother is very religious, and Xiomara wants so desperately to be a good girl and a good Catholic like her mom, but she can't help having doubts about her faith and all the rules that are associated with it. And then Xiomara discovers, and then things get difficult when Xiomara joins a poetry club, and then when she meets a cute boy, obviously. But she finds that poetry has managed to give her a way to not only express herself, but a way of healing things that are broken inside. She says, late into the night, I write, and the pages of my notebook swell from all the words I've pressed onto them. It almost feels like the more I bruise the pages, the quicker something inside me heals. She says, I only know that learning to believe in the power of my own words has been the most freeing experience of my life. It has brought me the most light, and isn't that what a poem is? A lantern glowing in the dark. This was a fantastic book. It's a pretty thick one, but it's a really quick read. The author wrote a lot of her own experiences into the book, so while it's not a memoir, it is based a lot on real life experiences. I would recommend it to anyone, teen, adult. It's just a really great read. The last book I'm going to talk about is Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson. This is another memoir told in verse by Jacqueline Woodson. And this book recounts her childhood, first living in Ohio, then moving to South Carolina, and then eventually moving to New York. Woodson writes about many difficult things that happened to her family, including her parents separating when she was very young, her youngest brother almost dying from lead poisoning from peeling and eating the paint in his bedroom. Things like her grandfather, who was the most important male figure in her life, dying. She also writes about how differently she felt growing up. She writes about how much trouble she had writing. She says, when I read, the words twist and swirl across the page. But she also writes about how she falls in love with writing. The first time I write my full name, Jacqueline Amanda Woodson, without anybody's help on a clean white page in my composition notebook, I know if I wanted to, I could write anything. Letters becoming words, words gathering meaning, becoming thoughts outside my head, becoming sentences written by Jacqueline Amanda Woodson. She writes about how becoming a writer became her deepest wish. How can I explain to anyone that stories are like air to me? I breathe them in and let them out over and over again. This is another really fantastic book. It is also really hard to read at times, just like Shout, but it is also very hopeful like Shout. It shows the power of family. It shows the power of an individual and how believing in your dreams is one of the most important things. And I highly recommend this book to anyone, kid, teen, adult. It's a fantastic read and deserves to win all the awards that it has. So yeah, that's all the books that I've got for right now. They're all fantastic. They are all told in verse. They all speak to the power of poetry, of writing, of overcoming difficulties and trauma, and about how believing in yourself and believing in your dreams can get you through the darkest times in your life. And I would highly recommend these books to just about anybody. So enjoy.